1.
Okay, the purpose of this video, Year 10, is to talk you through how to write a response for a Frankenstein question, particularly 7a question where you're given an extract. Essentially, this is a PEE paragraph. Now, I don't really know how good you are at writing PEE, so I thought it'd be good at the start of the year to show you what I expect and what an A grade would look like in the exam. So here's a question, okay? We looked at it in lesson, we will look at it in lesson, is explore how Shelley presents the thoughts of Walton in the extract. Again, we have analysed the extract, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm really looking at the structure, not necessarily what you would write, but how you would write it. So the first thing I'd expect is a point sentence, okay? It's your overall idea. What is Walton's thoughts in the extract, okay? I've said he's optimistic and enthused. It is a simple point sentence that answers the question. Now, obviously, we know that's not enough, but it needs to be accurate, it needs to be right, it needs to be your own personal response, it needs to answer the question. We now need evidence, okay? Now, this is a specific way that I want you to introduce the evidence. I'll explain why. Now, you might have been used to saying, I know this because, or even having a quotation just by itself in a sentence. We're going to use embedded clauses, okay, which is quite a sophisticated skill, but it allows you to include more quotes, to analyze them quicker, and to also structure it just makes it easy to read. So we start with the phrase. Now, it could be that we don't use the phrase. We might want to use the quotes. We might want to use the sentence. If we know what type of language feature it is, we might want to state what that is, okay? Again, something like that. So we're introducing the quote. The next thing we have is the quotation. Again, quotation marks here. Again, shouldn't be too long. Again, this is all basics that I would expect you to understand. The next bit's important. We have what I call an explanation type word. So we're straight into the explanation. So this could be shows, it could be suggests, it could be implies, it could be a whole range. I normally separate them into definite and maybes. Shows is definite. It's when you want to be definite, going right, this means this. This shows this. Other types of words, suggests, implies, you're saying, well, it could. I'm not saying it's definite, I'm saying it's maybe, according to me. There'll be times when you want to be definite, there'll be times when you want to be leave a little more room for error, a little more doubt in there, a little more possibility. Now, the easiest way to do it, if you still do want to use shows, is just go possibly shows. We are right now into the explanation. It allows us to get there quicker. Now, the reason why we call it an embedded clause is the phrase "I feel my heart glow" shows makes sense, okay? If we take that out, the phrase shows, again, it still makes sense. It's an embedded clause. And again, it's how I want to structure. It's the easiest way, and it's the best way how I want to structure your responses. Then we continue with the explanation. Okay, there it is. Now, a way to extend the explanation is to have a connective. If we want to not just say one thing, obviously, we want to say, we want to explain it across 2-3 sentences. Is to have a connective. Here I've used as, you might use which, because are the most common ones. Again, that's not enough though. I want to take out a key word. We're going to talk about this a lot this year in terms of keywords, okay? In terms of making sure analysis is even more specific, okay, that it's even more detailed. Here I've picked out glow. The structure here is exactly the same as before. I've introduced it, I have my quote, then I have my explanation word. I've continued with the explanation, okay, there it is. I haven't got a connective here, I've put a full stop, but I have continued it into the next sentence, and then into the next sentence. So all of that 3-4 sentences, including keywords, including referencing the reader, about one quote. Now, I would be expecting for the higher marks in your response to have 3, 4, 5 quotes, as many quotes as the time will permit, and we'll get used to that as the year goes forward. I want to now go to the second quote. This second quote is similar, so I use a connective such as also. If it was different, I might say in contrast. I could use similarly, also works fine. Again, I introduce it. I've gone for the quote there this time rather than the phrase, because I want to get some variation. I've used reinforces as my explanation type word. Again, I've explained it there, extending it with even though, okay, just to make sure that I'm explaining the quote fully. I've picked out a keyword. This time I haven't introduced it necessarily. You don't have to. You want to get variation. I don't want to say the word. So you can have a quote at the start of a sentence just like that. I like to have some like that. I have like to have some with the phrase, the quote, whatever the language feature is. Again, I explain it, extending it with a connective. I've now gone to another quote. Again, I haven't introduced it here purely because I want to show you that you don't have to. It's better to introduce some, not others, to get that variation. And I've explained that quotation. And then I've extended it again across 2 more sentences. Now, this video wasn't about what I was writing. I know you know the right answers, okay? The hidden answers, the more difficult analysis. What I need us to be able to do is to write it up in a coherent paragraph. So I want you to use this video before and after lessons, for homework, in class, to help you produce an A or an A-star paragraph or a response. The other thing is, I wouldn't say this paragraph is finished. It's just in the 15-20 minutes that I wrote it, this is what I would do. I would just continue in the same format. I would go to my third or fourth quote, my fourth quote now. So I just continue it. Hopefully this will help you.